What is the closest you have ever been to unaliving? When I was about 20, I was working alone overnight at a gas station and started throwing up like crazy. Couldn't get a hold of the managers. It was a chain, there were several. Ended up calling a regional manager and told him he had about 30 minutes to get there or I was locking the doors and throwing the keys on the roof. It was 24 hours, so there was only one set of keys. He got there and I just left. I was feeling unalive. It was a great job, great pay, and great benefits. As I was walking out he noted I'd need a doctor's note to return to work. I almost went straight to the ER then, so I wouldn't lose my job. But my house was on the way and by the time I got there I simply couldn't drive one more mile. I crawled into my apt, crawled into bed and didn't move again for days. My GF was taking care of me, but all I was doing was drinking NyQuil every time I woke up and passing back out. I had a 103-degree fever for days. Finally my GF talked to my mom, and my mom told her to take me to the ER. They checked me out, gave me 4 fluids because I was dehydrated, said I had mono, gave me a RX and sent me home. Next day I was worse, 104 fever, still couldn't eat or drink. So I was on a 4th or 5th day of not being able to hold anything down and with a super high fever. My mom had enough. She came over herself and took me to the hospital. She read those doctors the riot act about them sending me home the day before and insisted they admit me. They did. Then 6 hours later they moved me into an isolation room. People had to wear masks to see me. I was in a wing all by myself. Thought it was a little weird, but I was so out of it didn't really care. They thought I had Legionnaires. It only had a 50-50 survival rate the first time you get it, and the test took several days to get results. So they treated me for that. I kept getting worse. Results came back negative. All of a sudden I'm seeing 6 different doctors a day. They are taking blood samples like every hour, and flying them all over the place. Doctors are flying in to take a look at me from all over. They have no idea what's wrong with me. They are starting to think I have some exotic something from working in the gas station. The CDC is getting involved. My organs are shutting down, they don't know why. I'm turning yellow. They tell my family to say their goodbyes. Only found this out later, no one told me anything at the time. Not that I was awake much. Since the Legionnaires test came back negative they had been trying different types of antibiotics every 6 hours, just to see if anything worked. It wasn't. Finally, they met with my family and asked permission to try an experimental antibiotic that was still in testing. At some point I guess I had either signed my consent over to my parents, don't remember, or they took it away since I was so out of it. But either way, my parents agreed and they tried it out. It was like fire in my veins. I swear it was molten lava. I could taste it in my mouth, and it made me dry heave nonstop. I hadn't eaten anything solid in almost 2 weeks by this time, but within hours I was doing better. In a few days I was fine. I was released a little later. They told me if that hadn't have worked, I was a day or so from dying. They never did figure out what I had. Still don't know. I was told if they ever did figure it out, they'd name it after me. The medical bills almost unalived me though. In the end they completed all the lab tests, like 100K, and wrote it off to research. All the specialists did the same. In the end all I ended up owing was for the room and meds. Was like 30K. Insurance covered all but like 3K. I lucked out. All around. So that's how I almost unalived. That experimental antibiotic never got approved. The effects were too severe I was told, it was too aggressive. But lucky me, it saved my life. Right place, right time. H. Kaplan has reminded me that this wasn't my first time almost dying. And that has reminded me of another time too. I don't remember this well, I was 5 or 6. I got really sick and my parents got really worried so they rushed me to the ER. I don't remember this at all, but once there they started questioning me, and found out I had been eating onions out of my neighbor's garden with his daughter. My best friend back then. I remember eating the onions, green onions straight out of the ground. They called that neighbor, and found he had sprayed his garden with pesticide that morning. They had him go read them what it was, and were able to treat me. I turned out fine. But my parents told me that if they hadn't have been able to find out exactly what was making me sick, they might have not been able to treat me. All I remember is the onions. They make me sick to this day, if raw. This one was in the papers, if not my part of it. So I was about 7, and me and my mom are in town running errands. My mom says we need to get the car washed, and get you a haircut. Which do you want to do first? For the first time, and last time, in all my childhood, I chose to do the thing I hated first. And save the thing I loved for last. I hated haircuts. I was a hyper child and they always cut my ears. Always. But I loved the car wash. It was one of those that they took your car, ran it down a track, and you could watch from the windows inside. They had these steps under the windows so kids could watch. It was so much fun. The hair place was one business over from the car wash, and for whatever reason that one day I chose to do that first. We get there, and my mom is going to go first. She hands me a quarter or two to go get a pop from the soda machine in the back. It's one of those old-time soda coolers where the glass bottles are hanging from rails in a chest-like cooler. Anyway, it's in this hallway that's got no windows and covered in mirrors. Little 1 foot by 1 foot mirrors. I put my money in, and I'm sliding the bottle out when all of a sudden it seems to me the earth tilted 90 degrees. All the mirrors come crashing down shattering on the floor and I'm thrown to the ground. I ran back out to the main room, soda forgotten, screaming I didn't do it. I didn't do it. My mom's in the chair, crying. Everyone's crying. All the floor-to-ceiling windows are gone. Glasses everywhere. She just holds me crying. A few minutes later some policemen show up and herd everyone out of there and down behind this retaining wall. They stay with us and keep everyone down. After a while they allow us to leave. To get back home we have to drive back by the car wash. It's gone. And I mean gone. Nothing is left standing. Nothing, it's leveled. If I had chosen the car wash first, there is no doubt we would have been in there. I would have been standing at one of the windows watching.